Welcome back, everybody. Hope you're having a great day. We're excited to be back on the 86, and hopefully you're excited too, because this is a giveaway week. Now, we ain't showed the giveaway items off in a little while, but we're going to try to do better about that. So this month, it was the DeWalt drill. This is what you're winning right here. So make sure and check the description, see if you're the lucky winner this month. And next month, it's this Makita grinder. It's a 4-inch grinder. So to get entered again, all you got to do is be a subscriber to the channel, and in the comments type subscribed. That gets you entered. It's that easy, and we'll give this away next month. So this week, what we're going to be working on is our slave cylinder. It's going to be a hydraulic clutch, which this truck originally had a hydraulic clutch, but the slave cylinders well, they're not the same from Dodge to Chevy, obviously, but they don't mount the same either. And we're going to go with the Dodge slave cylinder for simplicity on the transmission side of things, because the way it hooks up to the pedal is not that complicated. So we got to make a little bit of a firewall modification to get the Dodge slave cylinder in there, and that's what we're going to be working on. All right, so this is the Dodge slave cylinder that came out of the 97. So the way these things work is they poke through a hole in the firewall, and it's got kind of a square nut. You stick it in and twist it, and it grabs. I don't know how else to explain it. It's not really complicated, but we got to put that shape of hole in the firewall. The original slave cylinder would have gone right here. This is where the hole was in the yellow cab. You can see it's got little dimples like center points. I think the hole would have been here, and these would have been bolt holes. So we don't think we're going to put it back here because it looks like it's going to interfere with the fuse box. So what we're thinking about is maybe using this hole. We'll clearance this, because these holes aren't used for anything. We'll turn this round hole into a square hole. And then we're going to put some reinforcement. We're going to use a little bit thicker plate, maybe 1/8 or something like that. And we'll make a kind of a washer of sorts, just to reinforce the firewall so this thing isn't flexing around when you step on the pedal. And we'll put some plug welds or spot welds or something like that on it to hold it to the firewall. So that's the plan. We're going to get to work on figuring out what shape this hole needs to be and make a reinforcement plate, and then we'll figure out how to get it in here. When we open this hole up, we're going to open it up towards the center of the cab. So I don't know exactly how much bigger it's going to get, but it's going to get bigger like this. So we can maintain the room we have between the fuse panel and that slave cylinder. At least now we know where the original one is. Let's figure out exactly what thickness material we do need here. Looks like it's probably going to take 3/16 to fill the gap, because this is the ear that grabs. So it's thinner here, so when you twist it in, it locks right there. It still looks like 3/16. We have to add the sheet metal, which is hardly worth considering, but we do have to consider it. Let's go see. This piece here is 3/16. Oh, that's way too much. This looks like 1/8 here. Yep. Yeah, I think that'll be good. And it goes right in now. You add the sheet metal, then what little air gap we end up with, because you know there's going to be something. It should be nice and tight. Hopefully hold it in there real well. So I think now we need to go back to the cab and work on this clearance hole. We're not going to put the square hole in the cab, but we do want this rubber seal to seal against the sheet metal. That way water can't get in between the sheet metal and this piece. So we just want the hole in the cab to be big enough for this square shape to fit through it. And that's going to tell us where the center of this square hole needs to be. So we're going to do that first. Then we can mark our center for our square hole and cut it. Then we'll be ready to put this in. All right, change of plans again. We decided we are going to put the square shaped hole in the firewall because there's just not going to be much metal left there for that seal to even seal against. So if we cut the square hole in this, that gives us the most surface area for it to seal. So I guess the first course of action now is going to be to clearance this, and then we'll have to open this hole up enough for it to even get started in there. Then we can start whittling away at our 4 points so we can get it oriented right. We'll get it fitting in here the way we want, because this sheet metal is going to be a lot easier to work with. Then we can use this as the template for our reinforcement. There we go. Perfect. Now all we have to do decide how we want it, which I assume that this tube is going to be looking straight up.
Mm-hmm. That's what I would assume.
So all we got to do is try to get a mark around it. Now we'll just keep whittling away at it, probably get pretty close to that mark, and then test fit it and keep doing it until we like it. Worked pretty good. I think that's probably good enough to use for our template. It's dragging a little bit, can't tell where, but if we take it out now, we run the risk of being too big on the piece it actually needs to grab a hold of. So I think we can hold our piece up here and trace it, cut that hole out, and if we want to whittle on this a little bit, we can. It won't hurt anything then. Get it from the back and get a little better idea what we got. Fits pretty good. Although we will have to get a new one and make sure that it's going to fit. Some of these ears look like they have a little wear on them.
Yeah.
But once you jam it in there, it passes that square and it locks in right there. Just with a little luck, when you put the seal back in and you add the sheet metal to the mix, it should be nice and tight. That's how it works. Stick it in, you'll twist that, and it'll lock. So now our little plate's ready to go. We can go and tack it in there. So we've got us a couple of spot weld holes here. Now we're going to see if we can get it clamped. Then we can start welding. Maybe we should at least stick it in there, just make sure
Yeah,
we're
probably
not
right.
completely missing something
Probably a good idea.
again.
Tell you one thing I thought about. So what was that hole for?
What hole?
The hole we used.
I don't know. Something we don't need anymore, I'm sure of that.
Okay, as long as you're sure of that is all that matters.
I'm about, I don't know, 60% sure we don't need that hole anymore.
Yeah, 60% is good enough for me.
All right. We're gonna give it we got it tacked in. We're gonna just jam it in there and make sure that we're not completely missing something obvious here. Tight?
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
Shoot
That's
yeah,
tight.
boy.
I think that'll work. Obviously our hose isn't sticking straight up because we're idiots and we marked it where we wanted it, not where it would get tight. But the line is still coming in dead on top. So if air needs to get out, I mean, that's the ideal place to get it. So we don't see that being a problem. Might even be preferable. Could even be the way it came on that Dodge. We don't remember exactly where it was. We're assuming it was up. But we'll get our reservoir mounted up here somewhere at some point.
Yeah, if we use that other bracket, it would go like right here.
Okay. That looks pretty good to me. I like it.
Yep.
Fits good, super tight. Kind of like the Dodge was. We had to use big channel locks to get it out of there. So I think we're good to weld.
I think so.
We'll get in there and do a little welding on it. It's probably about all we want to do in here. Go hit those 2 spot welds. We can do a little cleanup on that sheet metal side of the hole, and I think that'll be done. Well, there she is, all cleaned up. Kind of a funky looking hole, but it works. Went ahead and matched the sheet metal to this 1/8, so it's ready to go. It's pretty cool. So I think we can go ahead and stick it in there. Beautimus. I think that's going to work pretty well.
Yep, I think so too.
So now what we got to do is move back around to the inside. We need to go ahead and put our pedal assembly back in and get this rod hooked up. The diameter on this eyelet is different than what the Chevrolet was, so we're going to have to make some modifications on that. And I think we're going to have to move the mounting point on the pedal down, because the Chevrolet one angles up probably more than that even. That's pretty much straight right there. So there's going to be some pretty heavy modificating going on in this pedal. But that's what we're going to work on next. It's kind of hard to get a camera in here, but here is the original mounting stud for the slave cylinder. And you can see the new rod is quite a bit lower. Probably at least 3 inches lower on the arm of the pedal. So, I mean, you could probably pull the clutch pedal back, drill a hole, and use a bolt. It's lined up perfectly side to side. The only question we have is how much travel do we lose? How much travel do we have? That sets the clutch pedal just slightly lower than the brake pedal, which seems like that's the way it is in pretty much all of them. And I would put it about right there. And we could weld a tab coming off the back of the arm here to get the pedal even. But then I think whenever you step on the clutch, it's not going to go to the floor or even near it. That's going to be about the travel right there.
You know, the lower it is, the less chance you have of riding it. You know what I mean? Easier to slide your foot off of it and onto it. So, I mean, it makes sense to be lower, but I don't know. My main concern is just making sure it's as close to a natural feel as possible.
Yeah, and I feel like the best way to accomplish that is to get it to go lower. So when you stomp on the clutch, you don't want it to stop in the middle.
Right.
To me, that's not going to feel right.
Yeah.
So it wouldn't be worth it to me to have it up here.
If you only go halfway.
Yeah, and then
Right.
it stops.
I agree. Yeah, I agree 100%. So, I mean, if it came to putting the pedal further back, you know, like going into the side of the pedal arm, so it will go further down, I mean, to me, that's a better option.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that it'd be better to just have it setting low. Because up here, like you said, it's harder to get your foot on and off of it. If you don't need the stroke, I think it would be better to have the stroke down here.
Yeah, I agree.
So I guess next thing we need to do is just get this held where it's going to be, nice and straight. Mark it. Probably take the pedal assembly back out to drill it. It would not be fun to drill under here.
No, not at all.
And then we can put the pedal assembly back in, make the stop. Yeah, that's what we got to do. All right, so now that our hole's drilled, we decided we're just going to go on over to Uncle Rudy's and make ourselves a pin. So we're just going to machine a little piece of round bar to the right diameter where this slides on there. We'll get a nice machine slip fit. And then we can bring it back here and drill a hole for our cotter pin or whatever kind of pin we use. Slip it in here, weld it, and then that'll be done. So we're going to go ahead and make that pin now. That way it's done and over with. All right, so we made it over to Uncle Rudy's. Got a little piece of round rod here. Got a piece of stainless. So we decided if we use steel, we'll have to paint it and then it won't fit anymore. Or you don't paint it and then it rusts. But this is a 1/2 inch rod. We measured this at 434?
436.
436 thousandths. So we're going to chuck this up, skin off about 2 inches of it to where it fits on this bushing real good. And then we can take it back over there to cut it off, drill a hole for a pin. We'll be good to go. There we go. There's our little stud. We can take it back, punch a hole through it for a pin, and then we'll slip it in there and cut it to length. I think we made it. Drill press bottomed out about the same time, but I think it went through. Yep. Success. Nothing short of a miracle we didn't break that little bit. What we can do is, I guess, put the pedals back in or take the slave cylinder out. That'd probably be easier. We can just slip this through here, probably use a couple of washers, put our slave cylinder eyelet on here, see how long it needs to be. We can mark it and then cut it off, and we'll weld it on the back. There we go. That'll do good right there. Oh, we put it on the wrong side.
That would suck.
Give it a few minutes to cool off so we don't melt that little bushing, and then we can test it out. See how we did. All right. Pretty short stroke.
Dang, is that as far as it goes?
Yeah.
I figured it would go all the way to the...
I did too. Yeah, so the eyelet's staying an inch away from the neutral safety switch, which we didn't really anticipate, because that slave cylinder is pretty hard to push in by hand. That's all the trouble we got. It's still probably close to 3 inches from the floorboard. Alright, well, I think we're going to call that good on that. We're not entirely thrilled with the amount of stroke we're getting out of the clutch pedal, but it's impossible to say whether or not that's even a problem until we have a transmission in here. We can feel how hard it is or isn't. We may have to just get it all together where we can drive it before we do our final disassembly. But we're going to leave it where it's at for now. So the last piece of the puzzle for the slave cylinder is going to be this reservoir. And the yellow cab has a bracket for the original one. So we're going to take that bracket off, see if we can adapt it to fit the Dodge slave cylinder reservoir, and then that'll be finished up. All right, so we got a bracket in the vise, which Just gonna cut this ear off altogether and rebuild it in one piece instead of trying to add a 1/2 inch to it or whatever. I think this is just gonna look better. So get it cut off and then we can draw a new one and cut it out. You messing with me?
Yeah.
That's pretty sneaky. I didn't even see you stick that on there. You had me for a minute. I was thinking, you watch me mark it, how can it be wrong? It's impossible.
Holes may be
Too small?
screws too big and holes too small.
Well, we wanted it to cut new threads. Looks good. Looks like it's made to be there. Hose is just right length. I like it.
Yep, it's real good. Yeah. Hopefully, fingers crossed, one more item off the list.
Yeah, like I said, we're not thrilled with the stroke of the clutch, so we may be revisiting this thing in the future, but
Yeah. Yeah, I hate to finish something up and there be doubt in our minds about it.
yep.
Not good at all.
Yeah, so once we can actually try the clutch and see how it feels, we'll make a determination at that point.
But I guess that's going to do it for this one. It's time to move on and do something else. So if y'all enjoyed that video, hit that like button. If you're not a subscriber, appreciate it if you'd subscribe to the channel. And don't forget to go in the comments and type subscribe. That way you're entered into our monthly giveaways. As we talked about at the beginning of this video, just gave away the DeWalt 20 volt cordless drill. And now we're on to the Makita grinder. So make sure to go in the comments, type subscribe so you get a chance to win that thing. But that's going to do it for this one. We appreciate y'all watching and we'll catch you on the next one.